This is your one-stop shop for motocross news from around the world, and this week we really do have a worldwide approach. We have news from Australia, Europe, and the United States, because remember, interesting stuff happens everywhere, and the aim of this Vital MX pre-game show is to ensure that you, the viewer, feel enlightened and informed as to everything that is going on in different corners of the world. First, this week, let's look at the FIM World Supercross Championship, because once again, the series is dominating headlines. Why? Well, the former CEO, Adam Bailey, has departed the organisation, although there has not been an official communication from SX Global just yet. Enough information has come to light to confirm this, and of course it has come as quite a shock. Adam Bailey was always the face of the organisation, so for him to leave has understandably raised doubts over the future of the championship. What has caused even more people to question whether the series will go on is the fact that the social media channels, namely Facebook and Instagram, have disappeared. Yes, if you search for WSX on either platform, you will not find any results. Of course, this is worrying, but as I said, there has not been an official communication, most likely because those at SX Global are trying to get their ducks in a row and figure out what their plan of attack is moving forward. We have had some luck and found a new contact at SX Global who should be able to shed some light, but as of yet, we have not made any progress with getting an official comment. Before this news came to light, it was expected that WSX were going to announce a 5-round schedule that would take place from October to December. Perhaps that will still be the case, but again, understandably, right now, no one feels too confident, including the teams who participate. They signed 5-year contracts to begin with, and right now, they have no idea where they stand or what the future holds. Interesting times indeed, but stay tuned because undoubtedly there will be WSX news in the coming weeks, and we will communicate that right here on the Vital MX pre-game show. In more Supercross news, this time from the United States, Pierce Brown was docked positions at the end of the 250 SX East main event in Philadelphia. Why? Well, he had that spectacular crash over the finish jump, as everyone saw, picked up his bike in the whoops, which sat adjacent to the finish line, then rejoined the track there, completed the whoops, and reached the finish taking the checkered flag. Essentially, he missed an entire lap. So once the race had finished and the dust had settled, he was dropped from 14th to 17th to be more in line with where he should have finished. This has really tightened the race for third in the championship up even more, as Max Anstey is now even closer than he was. So that will be an additional battle to keep an eye on in Salt Lake City. Of course, Tom Vial and Hayden Deegan are still duking it out for the title as well. Now, some news which has understandably taken the industry by storm a little bit, but has also been exaggerated somewhat, is the fact that Jeffrey Herlings is injured. But he's not injured with a fresh issue, which will cause his status for the upcoming rounds of the MXGP series to be called into question. No, when he crashed at the third round of the series in Sardinia, you may remember that he complained of damaged ribs. Well, X-rays at the track showed no breaks and no fractures, so it was thought that he had just bruised his ribs. Well, the pain didn't go away. He raced in Riola, he raced in Trentino, he then raced the Dutch Masters, and the pain was persistent. So he called his local doctor in the Netherlands and asked for another scan. It was that scan that showed that he actually broke 4 ribs at the third round of the MXGP series. So ever since, he has been racing with 4 broken ribs. Not too shocking and not too surprising or impressive, because of course, Jeffrey Herlings is known for racing through countless injuries. Who can forget the moment in 2014 when he raced with a broken femur? Yes, that will go down in history. Herlings will head to round 5 of the MXGP series in Portugal at the historic track of Agueda this weekend, where he will be hoping to start clawing points back on Jorge Prado. Portugal was always highlighted as the round where he would start his charge, but will this rib injury halt that somewhat? I guess we'll have to wait and see. In more Herlings news, he raced the opening round of the British Championship this past weekend. He was paid a start fee by the promoters, so made the trip across the English Channel. He went 2-1 on the day to Conrad Muse's 1-2 to win the overall. It was a rainy day. The track, it wasn't a complete mudder where bikes were getting stuck, but it was one-lined, hard on the bikes, and generally not that enjoyable. Conrad Muse rode brilliantly in the first moto, as he does in Britain, to beat Herlings, but Herlings won the second moto quite comfortably. In MX2, that was won by EMX 250 contender Cuss Volk, but American Jack Chambers actually won the first moto. Jack Chambers is competing in the FIM Motocross World Championship for Steve Dixon, if you weren't aware, so he is essentially following in the footsteps of Zach Osborne, who is of course his trainer. The penultimate round of the Monster Energy Supercross Series lies ahead this weekend in Denver, Colorado, and RJ Hampshire could potentially lock up the 250SX West Championship. He holds a slender 2-point lead over Levi Kitchens, so if Hampshire wins, similar to the way that he did in Denver last year, and Kitchen finishes outside the top 20, essentially DNFs, that will be enough for RJ to clinch. Of course, it is extremely unlikely, and although Kitchen may be in some discomfort after his crash in Nashville, we have been reliably informed that he should be mostly okay and ready to contend for another victory. Of course, it is possible for Jet Lawrence to clinch this weekend as well. He enters the penultimate round with a 12-point advantage over Cooper Webb, but in order for Jet Lawrence to clinch, he will have to win, and Cooper Webb will have to finish outside of the top 10. A tall order, as Cooper Webb is of course extremely reliable and rarely falters, so it is quite inconceivable to imagine a scenario where he would finish so far down the order. But, of course, this is Monster Energy Supercross, and anything can, and probably will, happen. And as mentioned, the FIM Motocross World Championship will resume this weekend after a 2-weekend break. It has been some time since we saw the riders on track, and so this is looked at as a second first round, if that makes any sense, of sorts. Riders have had time to work on weaknesses, improve, and react to the incredible showings that Jorge Prado and Kai de Wolf logged. Will that mean that the results differ when gates drop in Agueda? Stay tuned to MXGP TV to find out. Yes, it's going to be an incredible weekend of racing, a lot to watch, a lot to focus on, and we will have all of the news at Vital MX. But if you don't have time to keep up with all that is going on social media and the various motocross news outlets, just remember that you can tune into this video at the same time next week to catch up on all that has happened. I've been your host, Lewis Phillips. Thank you again for your support of this new feature, and we will see you next week with more news.